This is the TheoFit Podcast, and I'm your host, Paul Maxwell. If you have failed to hit your fitness goals in the past, this show is for you. You will learn exactly how to change your physique, gain strength, lose fat, create discipline in your life, and feel better by taking care of your body. Stay tuned after the show for how to get free tools to improve your body. Welcome, everybody. Okay, today I want to talk about how to set a personal strength record for the very first time. So this is a practice that I undertake I do it twice a year at least, and I think it's a really important thing to always keep your finger on the pulse of exactly where your strength is. Even if you're cutting weight or even if you're gaining weight, it's always good to know where am I right now, because that helps you to configure exactly what your program is going to be, exactly how many reps you should be doing. Even in your working sets where you're not testing your 1 rep max, because your entire program should really be predicated on exactly how strong you are. And it doesn't have to be a 1 rep max. We're going to get into all that stuff, but knowing exactly how strong you are on a given day, or even on your best day, even if you're cutting weight and you're not quite as strong as you usually are, even if you're bulking weight and you're stronger than you usually are, you need to know exactly where you are so that you can know, how do I program my next 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, because that's going to be predicated on what's my rate of what's my level of perceived exertion, right? Is this an 8 for me? Is this a 9 for me? Is this a 6 for me? And then that's going to tell you, okay, I'm going to do 15 reps of this weight with this exercise, and that's going to be a 6 for me because I know I can do that. I know that this is my 1 rep max, and that kind of helps you to calculate exactly how much weight you should be lifting on your lifts, so that you know how to push yourself. Because all strength growth comes down to progressive overload. All strength growth comes down to saying, okay, I'm this strong and I want to get that strong. And you can't know how strong you are, meaning this strong, if you don't know really the maximum amount of weight you can move. That's going to help you calculate all the rest of it. So nobody walks into the gym and just hits this amazing personal record every single time. If you're maxing out every workout, that's not good. Okay, but here's how to work up to the place where you can, especially if it's your first time finding your 1 rep max, whether that's for your deadlift or for your squat or for your bench press. Here's how to work up to a place where you can actually impress yourself and those around you with your strength. Okay, so first is to get used to the motion. So start with the movement and then add to the bar. And the mechanics of a lift are really, really important. Research proper form, okay, and practice getting the mechanics of the lift right first. Now, this requires a sacrifice of the ego. It's really hard. Because I walk into the gym and there's 20 people around me and I don't really know how to manage that kind of pressure. The only way I know to manage that is to perform, right? And then when I'm in the gym, it's not actually for me, it's for the optics, and that's kind of subverting the whole reason that I'm in the gym, right? So practice getting the mechanics of the lift right first. Get the mechanics right, then you add weight to those mechanics. And that doesn't just have to do with the form, but also the mind-muscle connection that you have. Am I conscripting the right muscles? Am I thinking, oh yeah, I'm squeezing this muscle and that's helping me produce force to make this motion, right? Because, so for example, a common mistake with bench press, it's so easy to mess up bench press because if you are thinking the wrong thought about how you should be activating your muscle, then you could be putting an overload on your triceps or your shoulders. Now, nothing wrong with getting a good tricep workout or a good shoulder workout, but the problem is you're shortcutting your chest, right? And you don't want to do that. And it's the same thing I see a lot with squat, right? People want that weight, people want that PR, so what do? They compromise in their depth, right? They go just low enough and they might miss it, right? They might miss the squat, but they don't really care because they kind of got it. So now that's their max, and now their ego is attached to that number, and now their programming is going to be too heavy because now every time I got to go in and I got to hit this crazy weight. And you shouldn't do that. That's going to mess up your programming, because at the end of the day, your range of motion. You ever see those guys in the gym that just do those like 2-inch range of motion? That takes years to get to that place where your ego really cannibalizes your workout. It takes years to get to that place. And if you're starting now to see yourself compromising in your form, just get the weight. That's going to yield an even more compromised form down the road, okay? And that's kind of the biggest mistake that most lifters make, is they go too heavy, too fast, then their ego is attached to that weight. Now their whole programming's messed up, and now they're going to start stealing from Peter to pay Paul. They're going to start stealing from their range of motion to pay their ego, and that's not good. So that's the biggest mistake most lifters make. They go too heavy too fast, and then they lift in a way that risks injury, and they don't make progress because they don't know how to perform the proper mechanics of the lift. So start with the movement. That's the first way to get a really good 1 rep max. The second step that you do after you get the motion down, or the mechanics of the lift down, is that you find your 10 rep max first, because now you not only have to learn how to do the motion, how to perform the mechanics of the lift. Now the next skill you have to learn is the skill of pushing yourself with the lift. So you guys all know this, right? But like, if you pushing yourself on deadlift is very different than doing a deadlift motion with no weight. It almost feels like an entirely different lift. So finding your 10 rep max is a way to find out how to push yourself on a certain lift while minimizing the risk. Because the heavier you go on a lift, the more risk there is of injury. Right? So find your 10 rep max and say, okay, I know the mechanics. Now I'm going to learn how to push myself through those mechanics, which is an entirely different body, feel, mind, psychology game, right? Once you understand the movement, don't just jump right. Okay, I got the movement now and I'm going to throw 300 pounds on the bar and I'm just going to do it. Don't do that. You don't want to jump right to your 1 rep max. Okay, find your 10 rep max first. This will help you to safely test your strength. Learn how to push yourself without dropping the bar on your neck or falling down or hurting yourself, right? Then, after you get used to the mechanics of the lift, after you find your 10 rep max, now you can start your journey of finding your 1 rep max. Once you become comfortable pushing yourself with the movement, then you can focus on growing that maximum weight, getting to that 1 rep max constantly. You might even want to throw a 5 rep max in there before you get to your 1 rep max. Maybe I want to find if you're really feeling like maybe I'm not totally comfortable with pushing myself yet, but your 10 rep max feels like it's too light and you feel like you could really push yourself and grow with a 5 rep max, maybe put that in there. But then you want to find your 1 rep max and you want to focus on growing that maximum weight and going as high as you possibly can. Use negative reps, like we talked about in the past podcast, where you do half a rep strategically. You don't do half a rep because that's your version of a rep. You do half a rep because it allows you to do more weight, because it helps your body get used to doing more weight. And doing only half the rep is one way of kind of minimizing risk, but getting your body used to that heavier weight. Did I say? Sorry, I gave the explanation for half reps when I said negative reps. A negative rep is when you have a spot, and because you're stronger on the protraction of your, the eccentric movement of your muscle, you're stronger when you're lowering things than when you're picking things up. Right? You ever notice that? Like when people, like if they're doing a curl, they'll have like really bad form when they lift the curl up, but then they'll have like kind of pretty good form when they bring it down, right? Because you're stronger. You can lower more weight than you can lift. Your concentric motion is going to be weaker. So you want to do negative reps, which is that you have a spot and then you do a negative rep with maybe more than your 1 rep max, and then that spot helps you to get back up to the top super easily. You don't really push it too hard. They want to help you a lot. Like they want to take like maybe 100 pounds off the lift, so it's just like, let's just get it back up to the top of the rep. You do 5 of those negative reps. Again, I kind of talked about that in the last podcast. So when you're finding your 1 rep max, you're working on that, you're doing progressive overload, you're figuring out how can I push myself with as low of an injury risk as possible. You're doing the negative reps, which I just explained. You're doing the half reps, which I just explained before that, and anything else you can do to get yourself used, to get your body, your joints, your wrist, your ankles, your lower back used to more weight. All of those half reps, or even accessory exercises, accessory workouts, right? So even if you were doing something like, doing really heavy work on skull crushers for your triceps, so that you can get better used to handling the bar, so that your triceps get used to handling a really great load, so that your elbows get used to handling a really great load, so that when you get to the bench and that load isn't as direct and acute and potent on your elbows, right? Your joints are already used to it. Your muscles are already used to it. You're building that mind-muscle connection. So now you can conscript not only your chest, but your triceps and your shoulders in an appropriate, and your lats and your legs, of course, in an appropriate way to push up the weight. And then the fourth thing that you can do, I would highly commend this to you, because a lot of guys are like, I don't really know how to do the lift. I don't really know where to start with the mechanics. I don't really know what to do. So people just Google stuff. So I'm going to give you 3 people that are fantastic sources of learning these basic compound powerlifting movements. And they are, you just Google them on YouTube. They are fantastic instructors. They will break everything down in a really didactic, simple, digestible way for you. They are Mark Bell, his YouTube channel, Steffi Cohen. I think she holds a world record in a few women's powerlifting lifts for her weight class. So Mark Bell, Markbell, Steffi Cohen, Steffi Cohen, and then finally is Ben Pollack, who is BenPollack. Check out their YouTube channels if you're thinking, man, I really want to make sure that I'm doing the mechanics of this right, that I understand how I'm conscripting my muscles correctly. I'll link all this stuff in the show notes, obviously. So you go to those YouTube channels to educate yourself. They were really helpful for me. My bench press was really messed up. And Mark Bell was very, very helpful for me in kind of figuring out how to do proper progressive overload to actually work my chest, but then at the same time to figure out a way to use accessory lifts to maximize the amount of force that I can produce in my bench press movement. Fifth thing that you can do, and I kind of touched on this already a little bit, is use a spot to push yourself with a lift. So gaining strength is all about taking risks. It is all about taking risks, and people say, like, kind of everything we talked about so far is about minimizing risk, right? But you want to minimize the risk so that you can take more risks, right? You want to take the appropriate risks, because when you go for a big weight, when you're really doing progressive overload, the nature of progressive overload is that you are venturing into the unknown. Right? It is every single time you go to the weight room, if you're programming properly, it is the hero's journey. Not merely psychologically, but you're actually venturing into new territory. You're actually leaving your comfort zone as often as possible. Push yourself to failure with big weights safely. Make sure to get a spot. I've talked about this before. Just ask people in the gym. They get it. Like, usually people are intimidated, like almost like the bigger and stronger the guy, the more of a jerk he might be, and they're almost a little bit more scared. I found that usually the bigger and the stronger the guy, that means that he or she, maybe it's a girl, they have had to ask for more spots than anybody. So they get it. So I've found that usually in the better shape that somebody's in, I use that as a litmus test to say they know the necessity of a spot. They are going to be excited, eager, more than willing to give me a spot. And even if they're not, who cares? Like, you got a spot out of it, So this means you got to get a spot. Asking the random guy in the gym is fine. But I will say there's something to be said for getting a trusted partner, because a lot of times, and this is kind of the downside of getting a spot, is that they may not spot you well. So I would say, man, probably 50% of the random people I ask for spots when I'm not working out with a buddy, they end up stealing reps from me. So what happens is they will take weight off the bar before I'm done pushing myself. And then they just stole the set from me. I'm trying to progressive overload, man. Sometimes they do it on the first rep. So I've come to the point now where I actually just explain it to people. I just say, listen, don't touch the bar. Don't even put your fingers on the bar. Don't even reach over the bar until I say, okay, help, right? And when I say help, then, you can just pick it up or whatever, because, struggling through the last rep and having him take 5 pounds off the bar, that's not even necessarily the part that matters most. The part that matters most is you doing everything that you can on your own. That's what having a spot truly enables you to do. It's not to get the maximum number of reps out of that set. It's to get the maximum number of reps that you can get out of that set. So really explain it to people. Say, don't touch the bar. In fact, don't even lean over and put your fingers around the bar. I promise I won't drop it on myself, but when I say help, then I'm going to need you to help. Okay. And then the sixth thing is, this is something I've already touched on a little bit as well, is do accessory exercises. So don't just do the lift that you're trying to grow in. If you're working towards bench, do tricep, shoulder workouts, pec workouts. If you're doing deadlifts, work your hands, work your lower back. I found that back extensions were something I was really missing in my lower back, because I can produce a lot of power with a lot of my body, but I found that nexus, that really like the axle of the deadlift is my lower back and my hips. They were really weak, and I needed to develop those. So I started doing hip thrusters, started doing back extensions, right, where you're kind of like hanging off and you like raise your whole torso up. I started doing those, my deadlift just skyrocketed. And it's really not just about doing accessory exercises, it's about doing the right accessory exercises, right? It's about finding, why am I having trouble growing to my 1 rep max on this lift, right? If your triceps are already super strong, right? Like my triceps are pretty strong. So if I'm trying to grow my bench, I'm not going to put a ton of exercise into doing accessory tricep workouts. I'm going to try to figure out other ways to grow my bench. Maybe I need to do more accessory exercises that just add volume to my chest workouts. Maybe I need to start doing chest flies. Maybe my chest and shoulders are bearing more of the load than they really should because they're disproportionately stronger than my chest, and I need to figure out a way to balance that out. So usually the underdeveloped, the most you want to with accessory exercises, you want to target the most underdeveloped muscle. Kind of. So depending on the muscle group, depending on the lift, you're going to want to start with accessory exercises that work the muscles that are most directly relevant to force production in the lift. And then you're going to, that are most directly relevant to force production in the lift that you're trying to grow in, right? So you want to start if it's bench press, right? Like the first thing that, is going to produce most of the force is your chest. But, maybe your chest is already maxed out and you have really underdeveloped shoulders and triceps, right? Well, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're probably going to want to develop your triceps, because at least in that movement, your triceps are going to be more, you're going to get more return on investment. You're going to get more bang for your buck out of those accessory exercises if you focus on, you say, okay, I'm going to make a list of most relevant to force production in my lift to least relevant to force production in my lift. And I'm going to grow strength going down that list, starting with most relevant, going to least relevant. The only exception to that is, or the only other variable you want to put into that calculation is there one muscle in particular, maybe it's a little bit further down the list in its direct relationship to the lift itself, but maybe it's woefully underdeveloped. So you say, okay, I know my traps are really underdeveloped, so I gotta kind of work on that. I know my grip is really underdeveloped, and that's actually what's impeding this lift. And if I could just get that down, then I'll have the opportunity through working the lift itself to kind of grow all those other muscles. So kind of do that calculation when you figure out what accessory movements do I want to do to really improve the strength of, to improve my numbers on this 1 rep max for this particular lift. And, that's it. That's all I got for today. Thanks for tuning in to TheoFit Podcast. Hey, give me what do you guys want to hear? I'm into talking about anything. I've got a ton of stuff I want to talk about. I'm just talking about stuff I'm doing. So, do you have questions? Do you have stuff you want to ask me? You say, hey, this is my workout history, my diet history. This is where I'm at. I want to get to this place. How do I do it? Or I'm having this obstacle. Just shoot me a contact. It's theo.fit/contact. Just fill out that contact form. Happy to answer it on the podcast, getting a ton of cool interaction, emails from people, stuff like that. And so, yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. Crush it in the gym. Again, go to theo.fit/contact. And if I could ask you one more time, so so it's so interesting when I think about this stuff, right? So I have way more people who listen to this podcast than are reviews on iTunes. And many of you have got 50 reviews on iTunes or something like that. If you wouldn't mind just going to Apple Podcasts, and even if you don't use Apple Podcasts, everybody's like, I use Overcast, I use Downcast, I use all this. Right? Okay, I get it. I don't use Apple Podcasts, but it's part of Apple's algorithm, and actually about 75% of you do use Apple Podcasts. So even if you don't use it, or if you do use it, I would just ask as a personal favor, if you would just go over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review on iTunes, that would mean a ton. Just imagine, when people reach out, when people come into your life and they do you a favor, and you're like, man, it would be great if I could just get a bunch of people to chip in on this, right? And then a bunch of people chip in on it. How good that feels? It feels so good, right? When people actually do the thing, you're like, man, it would be so great if everybody would just kind of help me out a little bit here. You guys are the heroes. I know you're going to come through. If you just go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review for TheoFit, I would be eternally grateful to you. In fact, this is what I'm going to do. I just came up with this. If you leave a review on Apple Podcasts, email me your review at paulcmaxwell@gmail.com. I'll send you every single TheoFit resource I have, every single digital resource I have, every book I wrote, every audiobook I have, everything in my arsenal. I will send it directly to you. Just leave a review on iTunes and just, email screenshots to me or something like that at paulcmaxwell@gmail.com, or just Honors System. If you don't even leave like a written review, if you just like do the 5-star thing, just email me and say you did it, and I'll just, Honors System, I'll just send you the stuff. So anyway, you guys are awesome. You guys are what makes it all worth it. I love talking to you, and I will check in with you guys on the other side. Peace. Before you go, please leave a review in Apple Podcasts. It really helps us reach more people with these ideas. We really appreciate it. And check out our website, www.theo.fit. That's theo.fit in your web browser, and you'll get all kinds of downloadable gym routines, diet programs, discipline workbooks, stuff like that to help you get on track with your fitness journey. Just follow the links in the show notes. Get out there, challenge yourself, become a better you.